Some women give up their careers. Some give their money. Others give their bodies, their homes, their futures, all in the name of love. But here's the truth. The moment you start giving what you cannot afford to lose, you're no longer in love. You're negotiating. And when love becomes negotiation, you begin to vanish quietly, slowly, invisibly. It doesn't happen with a scream. It happens with a pause, a look, a silence that rewrites who you are. You stop asking for what you need. You shrink to avoid conflict. You bend to stay chosen. And soon, the woman staring back at you in the mirror isn't the one who once laughed out loud, chased dreams without apology, and demanded nothing less than reciprocity. This isn't about blame. It's about recognition. Because love should expand you, not erase you. In this video, we'll go through 7 things you should never give up for a man, no matter how much you love him. Not because love isn't worth effort, but because you are. She had a scholarship, a sketchbook filled with visions of buildings no one had dared to design. Late nights in architecture school, tracing the outlines of a future she believed in. Then came love, or something she mistook for it. He told her, "You don't need all that. You have me." And she believed him. Believed that building a life together meant putting her life on hold. She left school, packed away her pencils, moved in with him. At first, it felt like intimacy, compromise, the kind of sacrifice that love demands. But 2 years later, he left with a text. No apology, no explanation, just gone. And she was left with no degree, no job, and a silence that echoed through every wall of that empty apartment. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And when she stopped doing, she slowly stopped being. This isn't just her story. It's the quiet undoing of so many women who delay, defer, and downsize their dreams because they think love will reward them for it. It won't, because real love doesn't ask you to dim your light. It learns to stand beside it. And yet, how many women have walked away from classrooms, turned down promotions, pushed aside passions, to make space for a man who didn't stay? Maybe your dream isn't architecture. Maybe it's writing, or medicine, or owning that bakery you've been imagining since you were 12. Whatever it is, it's sacred, because it's yours. And any love that asks you to choose between being loved and being alive isn't love. It's a detour. A man who truly sees you will never ask you to shrink. He'll celebrate your expansion. He won't flinch at your ambition. He'll protect it. There's a reason this happens so often, because women are taught, even now, that putting someone else first is proof of devotion. We learn early that silence, softness, and selflessness are desirable. So when a man subtly discourages us from pursuing more, we interpret it as care, not control. But dreams are not disposable. They are not extra. They are blueprints of your inner truth. So if you've ever put a dream on pause for someone else, ask yourself this: did they hold it with reverence? Or did they step all over it? Some paths, once abandoned, never return. But you're still here. You can pick up the pencil again, re-enroll, recommit. You don't need permission to build the life you were always meant to live. And if he can't walk beside you as you rise, let him fall behind. It begins innocently. A shirt he once said he liked, his favorite cologne, tickets to that game he might want to go to. You want to surprise him, delight him, make him feel seen. And so, you give. His dry cleaning, his groceries, a tech upgrade he never asked for, vacations you planned, booked, and paid for. You call it generosity, love language. But underneath, something more fragile is at play. You start to believe that if you give more, he'll value you more, that your worth is something to be earned. Transaction by transaction. One woman told me, I just wanted to make him happy. So she did. With gifts, with money, with her time. He never asked for any of it. But he never stopped her either. He didn't need to. He had everything without having to give anything. When he finally left, she wasn't just heartbroken. She was confused. Empty. She had poured, and somehow never felt full. Because that's the trap. When you give too much, you don't just exhaust your bank account. You deplete your sense of self. And when the giving stops, so does your perceived value. Carl Jung warned us about this. That when the inner self is neglected, we look outward for validation. We perform. We overfunction. We hope that doing more will mean being more. But no amount of wrapped boxes can fill the silence of emotional neglect. The real question is this: are you giving because you want to, or because you're afraid he'll leave if you don't? Do you feel joy when you surprise him, or relief that he hasn't pulled away yet? Gifts should come from overflow, not emptiness. From connection, not fear. From joy, not a silent plea to be noticed. There's nothing wrong with wanting to spoil someone you love. But when every gesture feels like a down payment on affection, you're not in a relationship. You're in a negotiation. You become an investor hoping for return, a strategy hoping for success. And every part of you that once gave freely becomes tied to outcomes you can't control. That's not love. That's survival in disguise. So take a moment. Look at what you've given. Not just the material things, but the invisible ones. Your time, your care, your quiet self-sacrifice. Now ask, has it been reciprocated? Has he matched your effort with presence? Your generosity with consistency? If the answer is no, it's time to stop counting what you've given and start noticing what he hasn't. You deserve to be loved without having to earn it, like a product, or a provider, or a plan. If he only feels close when you're spending, that's not love. That's dependency wrapped in ribbons. You are not a wallet. You are not a wish list. You are a woman, and you deserve to be met, not managed. So give your heart, give your laughter, but never give so much that you're left with nothing, because real love gives back. You fold his laundry, run his errands, remind him of deadlines, text his mother, plan his appointments. You cook, you clean, you bring him lunch with handwritten notes like tiny proof that you're all in. He doesn't ask you to do all this, but he never tells you to stop. Because why would he? He's getting the rhythm of marriage without having to play the melody of commitment. You tell yourself you're building something, that this is how loyalty looks, that if you prove how caring, patient, and wife material you are, he'll finally see your worth. But here's the truth. Some men will accept all the benefits of having a wife, without ever intending to become your husband. One woman I knew packed lunch for her boyfriend every day. 3 years. Homemade meals. Little notes. Weekend deep cleans of his apartment. She paid half his rent, even though she didn't live there. Everyone thought they were married. Everyone. Except him. When she asked where things were going, he shrugged, said, "I'm not ready." 3 months later, he was engaged to someone else. She wasn't just heartbroken, she was humiliated, because she realized she had already given everything without ever being asked to stay. Carl Jung spoke of the danger of betraying the inner archetype, of abandoning one's authentic role in pursuit of being liked or chosen. When you take on the mask of the wife, Before you are one, you risk losing the woman beneath it. You become a performer in a role you weren't cast for, in a play he never agreed to finish. And the cost? You spend months, sometimes years, acting out a future that never arrives. You weren't meant to mold yourself into someone's ideal home. You were meant to become your own sanctuary first. A girlfriend is not a placeholder wife. She is a woman being courted, respected, and cherished, not tested for how much she can endure without breaking. So ask yourself, are you giving from love or from fear? Are you acting like a wife to feel chosen, or because you already feel valued? Because when you behave like a wife without the security, you silently grant him permission to delay commitment indefinitely. And what's worse, you begin to question your own right to ask for more. You begin to believe that devotion must be proven through labor, not love. You begin to confuse service with security. But you are not a test drive. You are not a rehearsal. You are not a free preview of forever. You deserve clarity, not confusion. Reciprocity, not roles. A real relationship, not a performance. Let love unfold naturally. Let commitment rise from mutual intention, not silent endurance. If you are the right person for him, he'll know. You won't have to prove it. Through unpaid labor and unspoken longing. And if he doesn't see it, he's not building a life with you. He's enjoying one built by you. It sounds harmless. It's just paperwork. We're in love. We're building something together. So, you co-sign his lease. Help him buy a car. Fund his business idea. Put property in his name. Because you think, we're basically married anyway. But love is not law. And when love walks away, only the documents remain. I once worked with a woman who invested everything, emotionally, financially, into her partner. They lived together. She helped him purchase 2 properties. He insisted they be in his name. It's just easier. She trusted him, believed in their future. Then one day, he sold them, took the money, moved abroad. She was left with nothing but unanswered texts, and a sense of betrayal so deep, she questioned her ability to trust her own judgment. She didn't just lose money. She lost options. Because starting over is hard, but starting over broke, that's paralyzing. Carl Jung taught us that individuation, becoming truly ourselves, requires boundaries. Financial boundaries are not unromantic. They are sacred. But many women avoid them because we're afraid. Afraid of seeming cold. Afraid of being called calculating. Afraid that asking for what's fair will make us look like we don't believe in love. But love isn't about losing yourself in someone else's vision. It's about walking side by side, each holding your own name, your own rights, your own future. You can be generous without being naive. You can love deeply and still protect wisely. A man who respects you will not flinch at fairness. He won't manipulate your trust into leverage. If he gets defensive when you ask to put your name on shared property, ask yourself, why? Why should your commitment cost you everything, while costing him nothing? This isn't about mistrust. It's about maturity. It's about knowing that if love ends, and sometimes it does, you won't be rebuilding from the ruins, but from solid ground. Because here's the truth. When your name disappears from the contracts, it's often the first step to your presence disappearing from the relationship. So next time you're asked to just sign here, pause, ask questions, get legal advice, protect yourself. Because your name, it belongs on more than a birthday card. more than the envelope of a love letter. It belongs on deeds, on businesses, on joint accounts. You are not an accessory to someone else's success. You are an architect of your own life. And if he can't build with you equally, he's not building a future. He's borrowing one. It never starts with control. It starts with discomfort. She seems weird. I don't like how your brother talks to me. Do you really need to see them this weekend? At first, it feels like honesty. Then it starts sounding like pressure. So you skip one dinner, decline one call, pull back from one friend who asks too many questions. And slowly, the circle that used to hold you begins to shrink. You tell yourself it's just temporary. You'll reconnect when things settle. But love that isolates isn't temporary. It's eroding something sacred. I knew a woman who hadn't seen her best friend in 2 years. Why? Because her boyfriend called that friend a bad influence. Too loud, too opinionated, too much. So she let the connection fade. She stopped calling her mother as often, stopped visiting her sister, started saying, "I'm just tired," when they asked if something was wrong. And when the relationship ended, she wasn't just alone. She was unrooted. Not because no one loved her, but because she had quietly disappeared from everyone who once did. Carl Jung believed that the self is never born in isolation. We come into being through relationship, not just romantic ones, but the primal, grounding ones. Family, friendship, community. When you give up those mirrors, you lose sight of who you are, because the people who knew you before him, they carry your history, your laughter, your most unguarded self. A healthy relationship doesn't shrink your world, it expands it. A loving partner won't feel threatened by your roots. He'll want to understand them, water them, sit with you beneath them. If he consistently criticizes the people who raised you, stood by you, celebrated you, you need to ask why. Is it really about them? Or about his desire to be the only voice in your life? Because that's not love. That's loneliness, wearing a mask. You are allowed to protect your peace, to set boundaries, but never confuse someone's insecurity with your responsibility. If he doesn't trust you, cutting people off won't earn it. And if he needs to be your entire world, he'll leave you in pieces when he walks away. So call your mom, text your best friend, go to brunch with the cousin who makes you laugh till your stomach hurts. Because when love falls apart, and sometimes it does, those are the arms you'll need most. Don't wait until you're shattered to remember who once helped you put yourself together. Let your love life be part of your life, not your whole existence. And any man who's truly meant to stay will never ask you to clear your table, just to make space for his ego. He'll sit beside you, grateful for the village that made you. You told yourself you had boundaries, non-negotiables, lines that, once crossed, would mean, "I'm done." Then came him, with charm, with chemistry, with just enough sweetness to blur the edges of your truth. He drinks a little too much, but he's under a lot of stress. He flirts, sometimes, but always comes home to you. He shuts down during arguments. But everyone struggles with communication, right? So you bend, just a little, just this once. You call it patience. You call it love. But deep down, you know this isn't who you used to be. You used to say, "I'll never stay with someone who lies," until the lies came wrapped in soft apologies and silence that felt like punishment, until each, just this once, became the rhythm of your days. One day you look in the mirror and realize the woman staring back is quieter, smaller, less sure of what she deserves. Carl Jung wrote about the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide, deny, or abandon. And sometimes, the first casualty of a toxic relationship is the part of us that once said, no. When you lower your standards, you don't just let him get away with more. You train yourself to expect less. You begin to believe that your discomfort is normal. That disappointment is part of love. That almost enough is all you'll ever deserve. But it's not. You didn't set your standards out of pride. You set them from pain, from past lessons, from wounds you promised yourself you'd never reopen. Each time you betray those standards, you reopen the door to old hurt. You teach your heart that it must stretch, even when it breaks. Maybe he's handsome. Maybe you've waited a long time. Maybe the idea of starting over makes your stomach twist. But staying with someone who erodes you slowly is not safer than being alone. It's lonelier. There is nothing noble about enduring what once would have made you run. You don't need a man who tests your patience more than he tends to your peace. You need one who meets you where you are, strong, whole, rooted in truth. So stop rewriting your deal breakers into quirks. Stop trading your clarity for hope. Stop shrinking yourself just to fit into a version of love that keeps asking you to fold. You are not asking too much. You're asking for alignment. And a man who truly belongs in your life will rise to meet the standard, not resent that it exists. Hold the line, not out of ego, but out of respect, for the woman you promised yourself you'd never lose again. This isn't about judgment. It's about protection of your body, your future, and the soul that may grow inside you. Because a child isn't a promise. It's not a reason for him to stay. It's not a shortcut to forever. It's a life, and bringing life into the world should never feel like a strategy to save a love that's already slipping away. I sat with a woman once. She had 2 children from 2 different men. Both times, she believed that the baby would bring the ring. Both times, she was left with diapers, unpaid bills, and nights that felt endless. She loved her children with a fire that kept her going, but she was exhausted, alone, and she said something I never forgot. I thought becoming a mother would give me purpose, but I didn't know how much it would cost when I had to do it without a partner. Carl Jung saw the child as a powerful archetype, not just a literal baby, but the symbol of potential, of what could be born from wholeness. But when you bring a child into a broken foundation, that potential becomes burden. You tell yourself, he's just not ready yet. He'll change when the baby comes. He cried when I told him I know he feels it. But if he hasn't chosen you fully, legally, emotionally, spiritually, no baby will make him stay. And if he walks away, it's not just your heart that breaks. It's your sleep, your career, your identity, your ability to be just you. Because motherhood is not just about love, it's about infrastructure. And every woman deserves to enter that chapter with joy, not desperation. With a partner, not a placeholder. Ask yourself, has he shown up consistently? Has he demonstrated commitment beyond words? Has he built something real with you, that a child could grow safely inside? Because a baby will not build the bridge. It will test the one that's already there. And if the structure is cracked, that weight will only collapse it. This isn't about waiting for perfection. No one's perfect. But you deserve partnership, shared vision, mutual readiness. You're not just choosing a father. You're choosing the future you'll wake up to every single day. So protect your womb. Protect the child who isn't here yet. but deserves a soft place to land. One day, when that soul arrives, they'll thank you for not rushing, for waiting, for choosing love that was already whole before they came, because real love doesn't need to be forced. It prepares a home, not just a room. You gave your time, your energy, your laughter. You bent yourself in 7 different directions, hoping that if you just gave enough, loved enough, endured enough, he would finally choose you. But here's the truth no one told you. Every time you said yes to what hurt you, you were saying no to the woman you were meant to become. You gave up your dreams. You gave too many gifts. You played the wife without the name. You signed things you didn't own. You abandoned your friendships. You lowered your standards. You even considered bringing life into a world where no one had made room for yours. And now, you lie awake wondering how love turned into silence, how your needs became inconvenient, how your voice got so quiet, even you stopped listening. But here's what I want you to know. It's not too late. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And sometimes, the journey back to yourself begins with a single trembling decision to stop disappearing. You don't need to prove your worth through sacrifice. You don't need to buy affection. You don't need to contort yourself to fit inside someone else's shadow. You were never meant to be a supporting role in someone else's story. You were meant to be the author of your own. So, take back your name. Take back your direction. Rebuild the bridge to your passions, your people, your power. Love should never cost you your future. It should never come at the price of your voice. It should never leave you asking whether you matter. You do, not because of what you give, but because of who you are. When you are no longer afraid of losing him, here's what I want you to do now. Go back, reread every one of these 7 things. Circle the ones you've done. Be honest. Be kind. And then ask yourself the hardest question of all. If I had loved myself as much as I loved him, what would I have done differently? The answer may not come all at once. But when it does, it will taste like coming home. And when the right man comes along, he won't need to be convinced. He will see you as you are, whole, strong, already full, not waiting to be chosen, but waiting for someone who deserves to stand beside you. Until then, come back to yourself, because the moment you do, you'll realize you were never lost. You were just buried under the weight of loving someone who couldn't hold you. And now you're free. If any part of this touched you, I'd love to hear what you're reclaiming. One dream, one boundary, one whisper of self. Leave it in the comments. I'll be reading.